All right, welcome everyone to the home ownership discovery class. Today is August 24th. This is our weekly discovery class. I want to welcome everyone onto the call. We have some folks that are in the process of looking for houses, in the process of being pre-approved. We also have some of our real estate agent partners on, so welcome everyone. I want to first start by introducing the man to my left, the man, the myth, Vincent DeRisi. So Vinny and I have been working together at all different capacities for the last 10 years, just celebrated our 10-year anniversary working together. So wanted to, so all jokes aside, so Vinny is an amazing loan professional. He has been everything from a processor to a team captain to a trainer to all different levels. So now he focuses on being a loan officer, working directly with real estate agents, working directly with the buyers, making sure that the process is smooth, navigating through this crazy environment that we have of a market right now. So let Vinny go ahead and talk for a little bit, and then we'll get into some of the information.
Gosh, thank you. Well, a lot of what Chad mentioned is what I've learned from him. So, I am basically a reflection of what he has taught me, and I'm definitely very grateful, one, to be here today and also share a lot of what we feel can best prepare a buyer in this market and beyond.
Yeah, great. So thank you, Vinny. Very nice. Actually never
complimented
never ever complimented me before. I don't know where to go with it.
And that's the end of the class.
Okay, so give you kind of an idea of everything we're going to cover. We're going to cover the what is most important right now in the market. So kind of a market update. We're going to talk on a large scale nationwide. Then we're going to kind of scale it down to what's happening here in the local market. We're going to also talk about how to get pre-approved, what that process looks like. There's lots of little misnomers on that. And then we're going to end with, most importantly, for everyone on the call, how we're getting our buyers' offers accepted at a higher pace than our competition. So that's the key, right? So we're going to talk about what's going on with the market. We're going to talk about how you get pre-approved, and then we're going to talk to you about how to get your offer accepted, okay? So we're going to jump into what is really the most important thing. It's been the most important thing now for 7 days, 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks. Yeah, we're 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks. So it looks like we might be coming to an end. And of course, we are talking about the hack of the software company Rapatoni. And what Rapatoni is, it's a software that actually the MLS, the local MLS, uses to be able to post new listings. So if a real estate agent or if a seller is going to go and sell their house, they're going to list it on the MLS. It's the software that's used to get that in there. And then how that domino effect really affects a lot of different markets is that information that's on the MLS is also filtered into your Zillows, your Redfins, and all the individual websites that all of the different real estate brokerages use as well. So anything that you're seeing that's does a house search of any type gets that information from the MLS. Okay, so it is something where I've been doing this 22 years. I've talked to a lot of people that have been even doing it longer than me. No one's ever heard of something like this happening. So there's it's kind of like uncharted waters on how we navigated through this. And like I said, it's been 2 weeks. So you've got some breaking news, or I guess what the latest is, right?
Yeah. So yesterday we saw some information that Rapatoni was actually available to some people, so that they were able to look at some various comparables, right? So for mostly appraisers out there who complete their reports are able to go in, get access, review the comparables, review the type of financing those comparables had, if there was seller credit, if it was a conventional loan, FHA loan, and they were able to move forward and complete some reports. Like yesterday I think we had 7 reports log in from 5 to 7, because I think it got turned on at 3. So we've been seeing really, really strong movement. And for those buyers out there and buying agents and investors, you're probably going to see a plethora of houses being listed on MLS this weekend. So definitely be aware and be as active as you can on the internet.
It's a really good point, because I would say, I know the first week that this took place, we had the minimal amount of houses that were listed, like, in a long, long time, right? And then I know we backed that up again this week as well. So I think, starting probably today, tomorrow, you're going to see
that normal activity,
but maybe hopefully a 2-week backlog as well, because we definitely need it. Now, I will say this: we've also had, I know you had some success stories, and I have as well, where the right situation, because there's some folks that were just like, let's just wait, right?
Right.
We don't. Where we've had some of our buyers sneak in and get some offers accepted because there weren't as many people out there working, right?
Right.
So in every market, you can be successful, right, if you are, putting the work in. So, all right, so there's the latest. So we had a massive issue that came up. We had some workarounds that we worked through, and it looks like we are even more than just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're actually in the process of getting out of the tunnel at this point. So we're not 100% there, but definitely some really big steps are taken. And I believe there's also a secondary software that the MLS is implementing in as well as a backup. So we're gonna get some really good things that are going to come out of this negative thing. And did I say it was a hack that?
It was a ransom hack.
Yeah, ransom hack.
And just for those buyers out there and even sellers, wire fraud and hack is real. So definitely be careful and talk with your loan officers and your realtors accordingly if you are wiring funds, because this is crazy.
Yeah, we've actually had 2 close call on some wire fraud activity as well. I don't know if you want to share this, but you're a victim.
I was a victim of hack 2 months ago, and it's real. So definitely protect your stuff and just be as cautious as you can.
I guess if I bring it up, I don't really ask if you want to share it or not, right? All right, so let's go into some of the nationwide market forecast. This has been on since we started talking here, so you kind of had a chance to read through there. What I like about these graphs are it just kind of gives you a different perspective. Again, these are forecasts, right? And it's just interesting to see what the major players are saying is going to be, what to look for, which majority of everyone is saying. I think the average of everything is saying that we are going to see increases. The thing to think about with home prices is it is so regional, okay? Because when there is a slowdown, California, New York, Florida, those big states are really going to, they have big swings up and big swings down quickly. Where here in the Midwest and Cincinnati, we're going to show it's more of a gradual, right? If we go to the next one, we're going to see what the forecast is with interest rates right now. We have been on kind of a roller coaster, I would say, the last couple of months. And we're in that part of the roller coaster that is going up like this. So we haven't seen the down of the roller coaster, but it is bound to happen. We do have some forecasting here that says, for the most part, where we're at right now is the peak. We actually have some quotes from some of the industry experts that are saying, hey, where interest rates are right now is a peak. And I'm going to cover some mindset here in a little bit on interest rate and the market, but I want to get through this first. Next part is just where home sales are, what the forecast is. Inventory continues to be a challenge in this housing market, but experts project 5 million houses will still sell this year, and it could pick up. All right, so Cincinnati specifically, Northern Kentucky, Columbus, Dayton, all gets kind of lumped into this as well. So we have had 3 different, that I can think of, 3 different kind of major articles polls, different things where it is like nationwide news where like Cincinnati is going to be ranked. Here's the most recent. Cincinnati ranked 5th for best place to live for young professionals. That is like in the world, or in America, I should say, right? So it is a huge thing. We had a really great article that came in that was really broke down that Cincinnati was one of the hottest markets. Okay, so different than this, but it was the hottest market. And if you remember what that article used, they used different, how quickly houses would sell, how much foot traffic. That was a big one. They would look at the data from the Zillows and the Redfins and the app that the realtors use for to Showtime. Is it Showtime?
Yep.
Showing time that they use to show how often. So if you list your house, how many different buyers go through that. So they take all that data and they put it together and they show Cincinnati had some of the most activity of all of the cities in the nation. And it was really interesting to just kind of show. So, what does that translate when you take all that data, you take all these different articles and everything? What do we see on the streets with our buyers and with our real estate agents?
And I'm going to answer that question. But in the back of my head, it's like, what I feel like brings this to the forefront. You and I are perfect examples of it, right? Young professionals. You're from a small town and you went to school at UC, right? That had, and gave you a great opportunity, right? And obviously you met your spouse here as well, but Cincinnati offered you that home ownership opportunity
Mm-hmm.
at a certain level that maybe couldn't be reached somewhere else.
Sure.
Right? So I feel like the opportunities that Cincinnati has been offering with either colleges or even like those smaller careers are giving those opportunities of, hey, you know what, let's put some
Right.
footprints here,
without having to pay the Chicago and the New York and
with those crazy numbers,
Right.
And I think it also helps, right? Like the UCs of the world, their sporting facilities are getting bigger and better. Xavier's, the FC Cincinnati's of the world, those are definitely, I think, driving a lot of activity to this market. In regards to what you asked, which I kind of forgot what you asked, was in regards to
what
the
we're
traffic
seeing,
and what we're seeing. Simply put, right, the supply and demand. The demand is just outrageous, right? Kind of like what I explained before. We have such, between the entrepreneurs, between people that are graduating from these universities, they are just smart wit buyers right now, and probably as smart as probably your 22 career of buyers out there, but the strategy that they need to go into, they need someone like us, they need a professional realtor to go jump into this. And sometimes it hurts them because of the time that it might take to find a house.
Mm-hmm.
But the atmosphere that we try to give with stuff like this is hopefully keeping that momentum going for them to keep pushing through.
Yeah. So with all this momentum, you say momentum, what does it do to home prices, right? So you can see here's a nice little graph. Keep in mind, everyone, recognizes the boom of, COVID, right? So 2020, midway through 2020, started just a rocket ship of houses selling. Interest rates drop, houses start selling. People are sitting at home saying, I don't like my house anymore. I want to buy, like whatever craziness that was going on in our minds then. It caused a, quote unquote, housing boom. And this is what we started to see. 2021, prices go up. Now look at where we're at right now with 2023. Okay, so this is like real data for your local market that we're covering right now. Okay, so when you see articles that are more nationwide articles, you're seeing a slowdown, maybe an evening off of price. Cincinnati is not the case. Okay, so what also is happening, this is the most shocking for me. Okay, so this is the biggest key indicator for me on what is happening with the market. Okay, and this is the local market, okay? So again, we have a 3-year through COVID, through 2021, 2022, coming out of it. What this line represents, everybody, is how many days that a house is on the market before it goes into contract, okay? So as you can see, even through those big boom years, okay, we were in the 30, 40 range, okay? It actually says that there was 41-day average over there, okay? Look at where that average has gone down to, okay? I'll actually go back to it real quick. Look how low that average has gone down, okay? It has gone down to a 6-day average. So what that means is houses are selling even faster than what they did. And you know, in going through those years when during COVID, it was like, oh, first time we were seeing, oh, there's like 45 offers on a house. Oh, there's people standing outside to get in for to go do a showing. These are
10-minute intervals.
Yeah, and this is the first time we really saw it. And then we kind of, you know, feel like we came out of it, right? And you start seeing articles saying, hey, everything's are kind of leveling out. And then you see a statistic like this, and you're like, no, it's like it's even more intense than what we first thought.
Yeah.
Right?
Even when you're seeing rates tick up a little bit, if the house, the area, I mean, it doesn't even depend on the area anymore.
Right.
Because I feel like Cincinnati has been spreading out.
Right.
You know, where one neighborhood was affordable 1 year or 1 month ago.
Right.
Now it's branching out to another area.
Right.
You know.
So there is good news. Okay. The last graph we're going to show here is the number of houses sold. Okay. So this is good to be at this level because we are, you know, basically the more houses that go on the market are going to kind of go in line with how many houses sell, right? So there are more houses coming on the market. We're getting back up to the levels that we needed to be. We hit some pretty low points over the last 12 months, but that number is on the rise, and that's good news for everybody on the call that is looking to purchase a house. Okay, so I mentioned, you know, what kind of determines, you know, buyer's market, seller's market is a really great graph here. Okay, and what is a buyer's market versus a seller's market? Okay, so first off, how do you determine the two? Okay, very simple graph here. You basically take how many houses go up for sale, right? And depending on what what use or what method you're using to pull the data, it's around about 1,000 houses. Okay, for Cincinnati, 1,000 houses every month. Okay, and we are seeing just over 1,000 houses sell every month. So we are right at 1 month worth of inventory. Okay, very simple equation on how you figure that out. And then you figure out, once you figure out how many months of inventory you have, then you look at this chart, and as long as you're under 6 months, that's a seller's market. 6 to 7 months is a neutral market. Above 7 months, that's when it's more of a buyer's market. That's when you have a surplus of houses compared to how many bars there are. Going back to your earlier point, supply versus demand. Okay, so if it is a seller's market, you're going to see, and this is where it's important why I'm explaining this, you're going to see houses prices increase. So those of you that are on the call right now looking to buy, and you're wondering, what are the prices going to be a year from now after I sell? Is this a good decision to make? 100% good decision to make in this market because of all the, the indicators we just talked about. It is getting to a point where we're seeing houses that are going to continue to increase and maybe even take some pretty big jumps from, if you're looking at some of those, like specifically the days on market, statistics. So this is the chart that you use to figure out where we're at. So a year from now, if you're, so let's say you buy this month, and a year from now you want to look at, where's everything at? Just look at how many listings there are and compare that to how many sales there are in the same amount of time, whether it's a week, a month, a quarter, and that's going to tell you where we're at as far as the market goes. Okay, so interest rates. Number one, how do you project interest rates? The biggest key indicator is inflation. So inflation is something that's been in the news quite a bit over the last couple of years. And this graph is a beautiful graph that shows you what the 30-year fixed mortgage interest rates have done since 1972. And then also the inflation or the CPI number, okay? So the blue line is inflation, the green line is the interest rates. So as you can see, there is a real strong correlation between the two, and most importantly, inflation is going down. It's going down significantly, and interest rates have continued to go up. So the projection is you're going to see the dip go down. Now, that's great. Again, it's a projection. What people really want to know is, what do interest rates mean to them, right? And obviously it affects your payment, it affects your buying power and everything else. But really, like I want to kind of like talk to you. What about mindset of interest rate now? I believe it's a good thing to purchase and be in the market right now with the higher rates versus waiting until rates drop.
Oh, 100%. I mean, houses in certain areas, from what I'm reading, just from my tenure of knowledge, next year in certain areas, we're probably going to go up 3 to 15% in certain areas of housing appreciation, right? So would you rather get into that now, or would you rather buy when it's up to 15%, right? It's just like when do I invest, right? Well, think of even purchasing a home as an investment, right? So you want to buy low, right? You don't want to buy at top of market. The rate can always change. You can always change that rate. And not that I don't focus on the rate, but we definitely talk about the interest rate.
When you say change, what do you mean by that?
Great question. So we can refinance.
Refinance, okay.
So whenever there's a high tick in rates like this, we always anticipate a refinance boom, as we call, maybe happening down in the future. Is it 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now? If we had a crystal ball, we would tell you, but it's bound to happen. But you can't replace that equity from 2-3 years ago.
Right.
You just can't. But you can always replace that rate with a better rate in the future.
You're absolutely right. So, and I know that you are talking to every single one of your buyers about this now, that close, hey, let's say you close at 7%, right? You've got some special incentives that you're working with them on so that they know that when the rates do drop, they're not going to, have to double down on closing costs and everything else. We have some incentives built in there as well. So, make sure that you understand that as well. But, and the other point I want to make on interest rates, is the last one. We'll
I got one more too.
All right, we got 2 points. My point is this, is that, you're in the market right now, and you're at, I think the last I saw was a 20-year high of interest rates, okay? Okay, well, what happens when, that 7.5 goes down to a 6% rate? Do you think there's going to be more buyers come into the market, more competition for you? Yes, 100%, right? So there definitely are people, we talk to them all the time, that are on the sidelines right now. So buy now, right? Rates drop, you get to take advantage of the refinance and get ahead of it before even more buyers come onto the market. We already very clearly showed that there are a lot of buyers, not enough inventory. What happens when there's more buyers come on, right?
Correct. And what we talk about these interest rates, and everyone's like, well, Vin, rates are 7.5%. Chad and I do what we preach. Right? We've purchased houses before with higher rates and refinance. I've done it 3 times. We have 2 people in this office purchasing because they understand the value of the home ownership. They understand that there's prosperity in being a homeowner, So, hopefully that the rates compared with, maybe increasing prices are not scaring buyers away too much, because the opportunity to get in as early as possible is significant for your future.
100%. All right, so let's talk about UMortgage, what our value proposition is. Listen, I guess best way to explain it is we work for you. We do all types of loans. If you've heard of a loan, we do it. We are local to this market. As Vinny and I have mentioned a couple times, 10 years experience, 22 years experience. Like we know the market, and more importantly for you, the agents that are listing the property also know us and know our our reputation of being able to close a loan. So, that comes into play when they're looking at offers, and, they've got an offer with, Quicken, Rocket Mortgage, and then they've got here local UMortgage, Vinny and Chad, okay? Or any of our UMortgage loan officers here. So probably one of the biggest things I pride myself and our team on is the strength of our pre-approval consultations. When we have a buyer that is out there in the market, they know exactly, what they are, what their buying power is, what their options are, and what their, what their proposition is to the seller that maybe they wouldn't have if they were working with another lender. So let's get into that process of getting pre-approved and talk about that, so that we can talk about what the steps are that we use to be able to get our offers accepted, right? So number one, there's 3 pillars of being pre-approved. You got credit, income, assets. Ben, what are some of the things that you're looking for in discussing with the buyers when you get into that credit?
We're making sure the accuracies of the credit report, right? Because that is number one, very important. And we're making sure that everything on the credit report is actually their liabilities, right? If their spouse, their mom, their dad, and maybe even their grandpa opened up a credit line for them back when they weren't even born yet somehow. So we do confirm those things. Then obviously we go over to score. We see how we get to that score, whether it's from lates or what some people don't even realize. Sometimes it's that utilization aspect, right? Of what they can lend on compared to what they actually owe, right? John Smith is making payments on time every single month, but for some reason he can't get over that hump of a 630 score because he's maxed out 3 of his credit cards, right? So we have the tools to go into that, get a deeper dive into the credit, and make sure that we're maximizing our buyer's credit score. Because, right, credit score helps indicate the interest rate. We want to get the lowest interest rate possible so that our buyers have a bigger buying power, right, for a lower monthly payment.
Right. So next is going to be income. Income goes into basically 4 different boxes. You've got salary, wage earner, hourly. You have more of a fixed income, whether it's retired or on maybe some sort of disability. That's just a fixed amount of money that's coming. You've got self-employed. You could either be a contractor or own your own business. Several different layers of that, and then everything else: bonus, commission, second job, part-time work, all those different things. Those are going to be some of the more complicated items that really dive into things. But the key with income is this: depending on your income is what documentation is going to be required for you. Okay, and so if the loan officer is asking for tax returns, it's because your type of income requires it, right? And so always work with your loan officer, ask those questions of what's going to be required based on your income. We do a really good job of collecting this up front. We want this information. We don't say, hey, how much do you make, right? We actually take your documentation and tell you how much the underwriter is going to give you for income, because you may be receiving $5,000 a month, but we have to use an average of 2 years. So it could be more, it could be less, right? So we want to make sure that we are very clear on your buying power. And that is number one. That's a huge differentiator that we do with our clients than what other lenders do. But the bottom line is we're always going to get the max value for your income, and then that leads us to your cash to close. So the third pillar here, we talk about cash to close, right? We talk about the down payment, we talk about the closing costs, right? And we lump those two together because we want you to understand, hey, it's not about loan to value, it's not about 10% down, it's about what is the amount that you are actually bringing to the closing, right? So maybe go into a couple of things here of this aspect.
We try to be as strategic as possible, right? We don't just want to throw a pre-approval letter to our referral partner, our agent, and say, hey, good luck, they're pre-approved for $250,000. We want to make sure that the buyer understands what their funds to close, their out-of-pocket is, if they go with this offer, if they go with that offer, right? I recently had a buyer who we were able to offer at 210. sellers came back at 220. We were able to strategically get that monthly payment at 220 purchase price, even lower than the 210, right? With interest rate, moving some numbers around, maybe looking at paying off a liability, right? So funds to close were the same at 210, but her monthly payment and all of her obligations were actually less at 220.
Nice.
So going that next step, right? That plus one, right? And really get the buyer motivated to say, hey, let's go that extra 10, because from what Vinny's telling me and from my referral partner, our agent is saying, this condo is going to be worth 240 next year, so let's go get it. And it's not that buy-in, it's that education, right? Because the last thing we want someone to lose a property on is, one, either the monthly payment is not different, or two, 10 grand is $27 a month if you don't change the rate, right? So that's the last thing we want to see something happen to a buyer, just because we didn't go that extra step, that plus one, to explain, hey, here's what we can do to get you there.
Right. Yeah, and I know this, you know this as well. Buyers are going to come to us with a game plan. They're going to have what, maybe what their parents told them to do, or what they had just in their mind. Maybe they're selling a house and they're going to use those funds and move it over. Whatever the scenario is, we're going to listen to that.
Of course, 100%.
And we're going to take that into consideration. But then we're also going to say, hey, did you look at this? And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. Like, look at this option. Options are key. I know that I like them when I'm purchasing something. I like, sit down in a restaurant. You want to see what all of your options are. I came in thinking the hamburger sounded pretty good, but pork chops it is. So, that's the idea with, our pre-approval consultation. You're going through, and this is the next step in the process of buying, right? So we've got your credit, your income, your assets. We've got all that information. We've got your application. Now we're going to take all of that. We're going to start looking at programs for you. We're going to, now discuss some of those products with you, right? We're going to show you what your payment is, what your PMI options are. So at that point, now you are as knowledgeable of a buyer as possible, right? You know the ins and outs of what you can do, what you can't do, okay? So you're fully armed and ready to go. And before you get out there, a couple of items that you should probably think about, right? So,
and back to the value proposition, right, of that, with us being in the trenches with our agents and the buyers on those offers at times, right? Because we're not just throwing that TBD pre-approval letter, right? We're giving that specific one. We're giving our clients
for the house. So
right?
that means that if your buyer goes out and makes an offer on 20 different houses, you're writing a pre-approval letter how many times?
20 times.
25.
Oh, you said 25.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah, 25.
So we have, not to keep bringing this up, but we have, competed with some nationwide lenders out there, and it's a big deal that they are not in the market, because not necessarily they don't understand the market, but it's like they don't care. So they're willing to do some things like, maybe offer something and say, oh, we'll just negotiate that later once you get into contract. There's some things that are happening, anytime you, like, when markets get like, movement like this, you just have to be very careful with who you're working with.
And desperate, when we do, between you and I, we're doing 200 purchases and new buys a year, and we see almost all of it, right? And have the experience of, hey, we could be the difference between you getting and not getting that house.
Yeah.
And those other big box places or online places, they're not going to care or be in the trenches with your partner while you're trying to do that.
Right. So while you're out there looking, or before you get to the point of looking, a couple, really good things to think about. Number one is just you always want to really keep track of everything really well. We are pre-approving you off of your information that day, right? So if something changes the next day, pre-approval kind of changes, right? People always ask, like, well, how long is my credit good for? Well, it's as long as you don't change something, really. I mean, there's a 120-day answer for that, right? But actually, if you go, miss a payment tomorrow, your credit just changed, and we're gonna know about it eventually,
Or
right?
buy that fridge that
Right,
you
yeah.
don't need yet because you don't have the house yet.
So, you're going to hear those things from a lender. Hey, don't change your job. Don't, go buy a car. No big purchases, everything else. I'm going to sum everything up in this is just talk to us. Just talk to us. Not every purchase is going to disqualify you from purchasing. Okay. Some people it is. Okay. Some people it's not. So just talk to us, communicate with us. We're not going to tell you, hey, don't take that job. That's going to, make your life better. We're going to tell you what the consequences of that will be. It might be nothing. It might be a 1 week delay. It might mean that you can't buy a house for 2 years, but you will get the straight answer from us so that you know what's going on. Okay. There's also workarounds for a lot of these different things as well. So that's the other reason that you would want to communicate. All right. So you want to say something?
Just to recap,
Yeah.
Now, just to recap, obviously, shop with before even getting with us or getting with us simultaneously. Always use a realtor when you're looking to purchase, especially in a market like this. Even when you have a system down, we've had some realtors using social media to help get that edge for their buyers, and I think that's something like you were mentioning before. So always use that trusted realtor, whether it's a family member used or a good friend, and then obviously trust us with your pre-approval letter, and then we're going to help you make that offer and get you to the finish line.
That's right. Okay, so those are the steps. Now we're getting ready to make the offer. So this is really why everybody was here. This is we've kind of talked about what's happening with the local market. It is a good investment to purchase. We see that prices are continuing to rise, right? We're not slowing down even though the rates are up. We do anticipate that it's going to get even more competitive as interest rates come down. So super key to get into contract now, right? So what are some of the tactics that we've been using to be able to get our offers accepted? Number one starts with pre-approval. Okay, so buyer, agent that you're working with
us,
and with us all have to be on the same page. So what we mean by that is by pre-underwriting your loan or pre-approving it and showing you all the different things that you qualify for, those are done ahead of time because those have to be on the contract. Okay, if a house goes on the market and you only have 6 hours to make an offer on it, a day to make an offer on it, you can't go figure all those things out that quickly. So you have to do it ahead of time. Okay, but also during that pre-approval consultation, we're talking about things like closing extremely fast. Okay, so you ask the buyer, hey, do you want to close in 10 days? Some of them will be like, no. Okay, well, if it's a difference between you getting the house of your dreams or not, do you want to close in 10 days? Yes. All right, what you have to do is we have to pre-underwrite your loan, which means we need all of your documentation today, even though you do not have a house yet today. That's the difference. Okay, we also talked about the buyers with allowing the seller to stay in the property for up to 60 days after closing. Buyer, do you want to offer that? No, not really. Okay, well, if it's the difference between you getting your dream house or not, do you want to offer the seller that? Some do, some don't, right? So that's what's called delayed occupancy. So a lot of times we will combine the two, okay? So, and the offer will sound something like this. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we can get you your check in 12 days, all right? And then we will allow you to stay in the property for another 60 days, okay? So that means that from today, look at today's date, you're gonna not have to move out for 72 days, and you're gonna have your check in 12 days, okay? So check is here on the calendar, and your move-out date is here, okay? And that is a way to make our offer really stick out without necessarily making it stick out with a higher price. We're winning offers all the time with this and not being the highest offer. It's not always about being the highest offer. Another big one is appraisals, right?
Huge right now.
You are you're like the master of the appraisal part, okay? Some of the tactics that you're using. Go ahead and walk through those. Gap appraisal, call in appraisers, things like that.
So we'll go over to gap one first. So Gap appraisal means it's the difference between the purchase price and what the house is going to appraise at, what the bank is going to say what the house is worth. Sometimes in this market, it's hard to catch up to the stats, the statistics of keeping up with those values. Sometimes. So in that case, or even before that case, we're preparing our buyers, hey, if this was to happen, here's the scenario that we think we should go with or be prepared for, right? You don't need to necessarily do it on every offer, right? Or even have to use it regardless. But we're preparing those buyers up front, even as little as putting 3% down, and obviously all the way up to putting, I have someone right now putting 40% down, right? So preparing them for that next step that maybe is going to happen in 2 weeks, right? Because the appraisal is not going to happen for another week or so, depending on the close date. So we're preparing the numbers for the buyer. If this scenario happens, here's what it looks like.
Right.
Kind of leave it at that at this point, right?
Right.
When it comes to your appraisal waivers, okay, an appraisal waiver means us as the bank have verified that the buyer does not need to get an appraisal for that specific purchase. It's typically 99.9% of the times it is for a specific property.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? We're going that extra step, that +1, to plug in the address in our system,
mm-hmm.
run our automated underwriting system, and that system is telling us, hey, Mary Sue is going to buy 123 Main Street. She's going to put 40% down, and she does not need an appraisal.
Right.
Not only does that mean she gets to save $550, but that means, you know what? Her offer is as good as cash now.
Right.
We're going to close on September 8th, right? In comparison to someone else who's going to finance it and close on September 20th, or whatever the case may be. Or we're going to go up against another cash buyer, right? And I'm going to explain to the agent, hey, my buyer is more emotionally vested in getting this property, right? She's financing. She's vested in her time. Whereas the cash buyer, like you mentioned all the time, we have $1 billion in our bank. That buyer, maybe he's got, who knows? I don't want to judge the other buyer, but who knows what they have, right? And we really try to show that a person who's getting that appraisal waiver is better than that cash buyer.
So I told you he's the expert in it. So it starts with being over the top, well pre-approved, so that you know what your options are. You can't offer a quick close. You can't offer a delayed occupancy, a gap appraisal without doing all of the work ahead of time. So that's really what our pre-approval process is. It is about doing all of the work ahead of time, so that you can. If you follow us on any social media, you'll see, 1 day underwrite, 1 day approval, closing in 8 days. Like these are not like this is our process, right?
They're not made by Canva.
I wish. That's what the process is. That is because of this exact thing. We want to make our offer stand out for you, the buyer. Okay. So
one last thing on that. It's like, you have children.
Mm-hmm.
When your baby was born, is that when you got the crib ready and the room prepared and everything all set up?
That's right.
Or a month ago, you prepped for that baby to come in.
That's a good point.
Right? Before jumping in, you got to be prepared, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be zoned in, number one dad, number one mom, number one buyer, right? So that's the game plan that we try to put together, not only for our agents, but obviously for our buyers.
I love that. So number one buyer sounds like this, okay? They have the ability to close fast, okay? And by fast, we mean, let's just say 12, 15 days closing, okay? It's a thing. You're also talking to the seller and asking them, hey, we will offer for you to just go ahead and stay in the house, allow you to be able to move out, okay? Take your time moving out. It's a thing. We're going to address your concerns. This is a good way of saying it. Address your concerns about the appraisal, okay, by putting a gap appraisal in our offer, okay? And, typically it sounds like, hey, as long as, the house appraises for this amount, we're good, okay? So, if I'm going to offer 270 on the house, I'm going to say, hey, as long as the appraisal, comes in at 250, okay, I'm not going to negotiate with you on price. We're still going to keep the 270. I'm the one that's determining the price because I'm the one making the offer. I just need the financing for it to be appraised at 250. How's that sound? Okay, so that's part of what that really good offer sounds like. Okay, so these are the tactics that we use. Get everybody into the houses. We're doing a fantastic job of a higher percentage of our offers being accepted. Most importantly, we're calling the listing agent.
Even after this class, the percentages go up even after someone comes to this class.
Right. Yeah, that's actually true. So you guys are actually taking the first step. That's being in the class. In part of the class is you're going to get a $300 credit for your time. We want to have educated buyers out there. We want educated real estate professionals that we work with. We really this is a part of our give back, our value that we do with our partners. You're going to have a link in the chat. You're also going to have this if you can scan that. But that's going to take you to a survey, very quick, who you are, name, email, phone number, and then also someone that that could use our services as well. This could be a sister who is renting that you would like to have them talk about home ownership. Maybe it's a parent that is looking to downsize. Anybody that that's in the market that we could possibly help, please fill their information out as well. So your information and their information, turn that in. You'll have your $300 credit ready for you when you go into contract. Any last comments?
Yeah, and to explain that even further, we're passionate about the value that we give, right? So we want to spread that as much as possible. So that's why, we ask for the referrals, right? Because that's how our business is literally created.
But we don't advertise. You don't see UMortgage down at the stadium.
No.
Or anything like that. I was down at the soccer stadium, see Messi last night. I didn't see UMortgage down there.
No, I mean, we are on Fox every month.
Fox.
It's not a paid sponsorship, but they actually pay us. No, I'm joking. But no, it really does mean a lot if you do refer a family member for us to show that value to them as well. And yeah.
Cool. All right. It's been an absolute pleasure working with this guy. You crushed it as always. Thank you everybody for being on the call. If you have any questions, reach out to your loan officer, reach out to us, anything that we can do to help. And that's it. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Appreciate you being on.
50 minutes, nice.
Stellar.
Nice.
Crushed it.
Yeah,
That was good.
that was
It was our best one.